I mean, look, I didn't know what I was walking into, and but then like more shows started getting booked, and we coalesced. Like we had a couple different people come in and out, but then we got Joe Kidd on drums and Justin Perkins on bass. But like when it gelled, it was a motherfucker. And then and Tommy and I, like it took about a day, and we were just like off to the races together.
Hey everybody, this is Dennis Black, and welcome to the Black and Wyatt Records podcast. This month, our hosts, Mike McCarthy and Frank Bruno, talk with Memphis guitar slinger Steve Selvidge as he reminisces about growing up in Midtown Memphis, the Memphis punk rock scene of the 80s, and playing in numerous bands such as Big Ass Truck, Amy LaVere, Uncensored, Fingers Like Saturn, Bash and Pop, and The Whole Steady. And now here's Steve Selvidge.
I'm going to get real angry and bang my fist on the table.
Are we going to talk about, when we talk about the hardcore scene?
I hope so, yeah.
That's when you're going to get angry?
Oh, yeah.
And we're rolling.
We're rolling. Steve Selvidge, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Why would you agree to do this?
Because we go way back, Mike.
Don't we?
And you let me hang out at the Distemper house.
Oh, my God.
So,
Where was Frank Bruno?
I didn't know you then.
Do you know me
Was
now,
not
Frank?
Invited.
Or whenever you mention the 80s, I tend to it drops out.
you go deaf or?
I think about art school.
Uh-huh.
And my first rejection letter.
Right.
Which was my diploma. That's an old one. I use that quite a bit. How did you know about Distemper House?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I live right down the street.
Where?
On Autumn and Evergreen.
Is that where y'all were?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know you lived that close.
Oh, yeah. I live right close to there now. I live closer to the Distemper house now than I did then.
I don't know if that's good or not.
Maybe through my friend Miles Chappell. Because he's the one that kind of got me into the hardcore scene and skating. Him and this dude Kyle McLean.
Where are they now?
Well, Miles is dead. I think Colin lives in Connecticut and teaches in the city in New York. Teaches art.
Do you remember how we met?
No,
I don't either. But and usually we start these things where I'll talk about, hey, what are you doing right now, instead of going back 45 years.
1987.
Yeah, but what the hell? I would go home for the weekends because I was dating Kim at the time, or I was trying to.
Right.
And I would come back, and all the teenagers would have cleared out. All the underage teenagers would have cleared out of Distemper House. But sometimes I was there, and they were still there.
Right.
And so eventually I noticed that you kept sitting around playing George's bass on the arm of the couch.
Right.
So at a certain point, I said, hey, who are you?
Person in my house?
And you're like, I'm Steve. And I'm like, okay. And then I got to go to work now to help pay the rent on the apartment. So, but you were, that's my first memory of you, real short hair, gawky, skinny, sitting there playing a bass like nobody's business on the couch arm, George's Fender that had strings on it that were ancient. Mm-hmm. And that's my first memory of you.
Yeah. Wow. I just remember being there and being so excited. Because I come out, I was hanging out with some friends and we were listening to Motley Crue and going to the, the parking lot ticket camp out things and
Ticketmaster,
just being
Ticket Hub rather,
general dirt bags. And so then I got into hardcore and kind of got into the straight edge scene for a bit and probably did me some good.
Right.
And it was just instead of, standing around for Motley Crue tickets that we clearly were not going to get. And even if we did, we weren't going to be anywhere near Motley Crue. The next thing you know, it's just that these bands are coming through the Antenna Club and then we're just face to face with them or even hanging out sometimes.
So you went through a transition like me and many others did, where you're going to the Coliseum or Ellis Auditorium to see shows, and then you realize, oh, I can touch the band at except you can't get in the Antenna because there's no all ages shows yet.
Oh, so because they had all ages shows when I came around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. By that point.
But yeah, no, it was so exciting because also like because my buddy Colin, both his parents taught at Southwestern, now Rhodes. He knew. I don't know if you remember Peter Luton. He had the We Are the Weird show on WLIX. Do you remember that?
I remember the name, but I don't remember the show.
Yeah, it was the hardcore punk rock show, like on a Saturday night.
I never listened to Rhodes. I don't think I listened to any accessible punk rock on the radio.
Yeah, I mean, so I befriended him, and I wound up hanging out. I guess I really just wormed my way into all these situations because I ended up hanging out with him a lot and doing the radio show with him.
Even though you were incredibly young.
Yeah, 13.
Oh God.
And then we would go skate too.
Well, how old were you in '86?
I was 13 in '86.
Oh my God! I always thought you were like 16 when I met you.
No, I was 13 going on 9 at that point. What's up, Doug? But yeah. So I mean, because I remember I can't remember if it was. I don't think it was the Vandals, but somebody came in town and I think we took him to go see like where Joe Walsh lived or something. But I was hanging out. I can't remember what the band was, but anyway, yeah, it was just great. And then my first show at the Antenna Club was the Triple D review.
The
Distemper, Dag Nasty, Descendants.
That was your first entrance.
First Antenna show.
Wow.
First stage dive.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And I fell in love with Dag Nasty like immediately.
Yeah.
That first record is so great. I probably can still play it on guitar. I learned it from top to bottom. So
you weren't a bass player just on the couch arm. You were more of a guitar player.
I'm wondering why, if there was a guitar around, I didn't pick it up, because I was very guitar obsessed by that point.
Well, coming out of Mississippi, George and I could never find people to play with, and he was a bass player,
right?
And he wrote the Rock Roaches songs, and I had a PVT-27.
Oh, I remember it.
And so that would have been around, but we couldn't find a drummer. We couldn't find people that were into like alternative music,
right,
at Northeast Junior College. And then when we got here, we found Jonathan Picard, and which led to, it opened the door for all you guys, I guess, because then he got on the phone and said, "Hey, y'all come over here for the underage drinking."
Yeah.
But then you were straight edge.
I was straight edge. Yeah, straight.
Well, you must appeal.
Alert.
George is still straight edge.
Oh.
So you must have appealed to George in a big way.
I guess so, yeah. Here, let me take a sip of this beer real quick.
Anytime I mention George, we can drink. It's like a drinking game. Yeah. But you were very far from establishing yourself as a player at that point.
I mean, I quickly got a band, or I joined a band that was already formed, called, we were called Uncensored.
Okay.
Jack Irving.
Man, I don't know these names. These must be young kids.
They were a little bit older than, like a year older than me.
Maybe they didn't come around December House.
Yeah, I don't know. And then this guy Joe Dixon and Miles Chappell, and so when we played the Antenna a few times
after the All Ages was established.
And actually, our first gig was at Caroline Smallwood's house. It was Halloween in her backyard, and I later found out Mudboy was recording a record Halloween night. I don't know if it was at Sam Phillips or where it was, but anyway, they were doing a recording, and so Luther was there, Luther Dickinson, and my dad was there just by himself, and he was like, "Where's Steve?" And my dad was like, "Oh, he has a gig tonight," and Luther was like, "He has a gig? Oh my God, how?" And that was the beauty of the hardcore scene, I'm just playing a gig. And
well, and then Luther would have had to have come in from Mississippi, right?
Yeah.
And then those other kids, with the exception of maybe Picard, who lived on Cowden, and all those other kids were shipped in from Germantown.
Yeah, or Bartlett.
So you guys had a special insular, like Midtown.
Yeah, no, I mean, Luther was always like, oh man, he's right there in Midtown, because he'd be coming up from Hernando,
right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm smelling the clove cigarettes right now.
You're going through your process where you're not really tapped into the Mudboy thing, right? Or you were?
No, I was aware of it. Yeah.
Well, you were aware of it, but
I was into it. And I mean, I was playing guitar. I've been playing guitar for 3 years solid by that point.
But you didn't like snub your nose at different genres.
No.
okay.
No. I mean, because, I've been heavy into Zeppelin prior to that.
You've always been into
Yeah.
Zeppelin.
And then I remember my dad played me the Moloch record, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
So, and I always loved going to see Mudboy ever since I was a little bitty kid.
Did you see Moloch as like a Memphis Zeppelin?
More of a Memphis like Cream maybe, or I don't know, Iron Butterfly. I don't know.
Trio plus two.
Yeah, more stoner, fuzzed out, less Hobbits.
Okay. Frank, do you have a comment about the Hobbits?
No. Getting the music we listened to when we were kids didn't come from our parents, so
Right.
And then it was from friends or whatever. But when you were young, started playing guitar, and all these musicians who aren't famous people at your house, but you were in the musician kind of life, I guess, from being born.
Right.
Who was there that kind of pushed you? Your dad, really? I know you were around Lee Baker and all these other people who got you really into.
Yeah, Baker 100%. Absolutely. Like, he was as much of a guitar hero, guitar god as Hendrix or Clapton or Jimmy Page to me, and Luther too. And like, Baker and my dad were really good friends. And they didn't just play together. They were like, we would go over to their house like at Christmas time and stuff. But yeah, no, I totally like, once I kind of picked up steam playing guitar, if Baker was coming over, I would just kind of make sure I just happened to be playing guitar, and then kind of walk downstairs like, oh, I didn't know you were here. Waiting for him to say something, like, hey, you sounded good up there.
What would he say about you playing? Do you remember?
I don't think I ever got or not, at least in not that context.
Right.
He might have made note of it, but
Well, he would expect you, like his own son, to be a prodigy, perhaps? Or is that the right word?
No. I mean, he was just, my dad never, my brother and I both never like pushed it on us. He made it available. Like
Right.
my brother wanted a drum kit, and he got a drum kit for him, and then he quickly lost interest, and so I started playing drums. I was going to be a drummer, and then
And you were.
you hear it.
Eventually.
And then one day, I went with my dad to Strings and Things, and he would just like sit me down and put a guitar in my hands, not to get me to play guitar, but just he knew that I wouldn't run around and break shit if I was just sitting still.
Where was it?
Strings and Things
On Union?
Yeah, and I remember in my memory I'm playing through a Roland jazz chorus, and it was just like everything sounded like the Police, and I was like, holy shit! Like I made a chord or did something. I was like, whoa, this is like, I mean, as close to the clouds parting.
But how did you learn chords?
So, this is right up your alley, Mike. My brother, I must have been 5th or 6th grade. My brother, diehard Bowie fan, and so
Those are the weirdest chords.
through him, I got really into, Rise and Fall, Ziggy Stardust. And so I wanted to play that riff, G, D sus, D sus, D sus. And so I asked my dad, if he'd show it to me. And he was like, look, let's start with the basics. He was like, here's an E, here's an A, here's a D. And if you can go back and forth between those, I'll show you some other things.
How old were you then?
10.
Okay.
But
But your dad is like,
yeah, I'm sure he was stoked. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he saw from the get go that like I was.
well, it's not like you're asking how to play a Foreigner song.
Yeah. My brother gave me head games for my birthday one year. But so I quickly kind of got together the E, A, and D chord, but
I see you more of as a GCD guy, but okay.
no,
whatever.
no, I like E.
Okay.
But that also happened to be right around the time that Eddie and the Cruisers hit cable with strong force, and E, A, and D is basically the opening chorus on the dark side. So I was like, I wanted to learn Ziggy Stardust, and now I'm playing fucking On the Dark Side, man. But I mean, no shade to the Beaver Brown Band, but and then I was just kind of on my way at that point. Like,
But you're like 3 years ahead of what the average is for some kid.
I guess, yeah.
Probably 13, 14 is. I mean, I didn't pick up a guitar until I was 17.
Right.
And then I put it quickly back down again.
Yeah, it just took over my life. I just became obsessed with it. And
So you never went through the Mel Bay chord book? And
no, I
all
went
that?
through the Complete Beatles. I had because remember when the Complete Beatles came out in the 80s?
You're talking about the Blue and the Red album?
No. It was a
Because-
documentary on HBO that Malcolm McDowell,
Malcolm McDowell.
he narrated it.
Malcolm McDowell narrated a Beatles
Yes, he did.
Frank, do you know about that?
I don't remember it.
Most of it's on YouTube. Man, I watched that religiously. But anyway, it had a companion book that had, chord charts. And
Really?
Yeah, I remember trying to play Yesterday, and because that was one of the big hurdles. It's got a bar F chord, and that's like that's like a challenge that every beginning guitar player has to get over. Like, I'll never be able to make this F chord.
Considering Sid Vicious couldn't do any of it.
Yeah. So
A bar. Oh yeah, because it's just there. It is.
yeah, but I mean, probably the most important thing is that my dad showed me how to tune to open G, and he showed me how to play Casey Jones, Furry Lewis.
So that gets us into but you weren't even 10. You were more like 3 when you met Furry. How old were you?
I mean, yeah, I was around him since birth, but I was 2 or 3 years old.
That would be funny if Furry was there when you were born.
I know, right?
There's an album cover right there. What you want to talk about Furry for a minute?
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
go from one thing, and then we'll eventually get around to playing some things here.
Okay.
Unless you want to play some Furry, we could do anything you want to play.
I'm always up for playing some Furry Lewis.
You have a favorite Furry? Fave Furry? Play it right now, and then we'll come back and talk about Furry.
Frankie and Johnny, or no, there's an early version of Turn Your Money Green that actually it's like it's fast and it's basically the same lick as Joe Callicott's Lonesome Katie. I think it's from the 20s.
So you are very much a Furry student.
Yes and no. I mean, there's people that have devoted their life to country blues, playing, and I'm not I just sort of do my thing and kind of what I picked up from my dad and Dickinson and Baker.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember Furry playing in front of you, or did he play in front of you?
A little bit, but mainly we just hung out. I mean,
Right.
my dad would go over there and bring him 10 high whiskey and cabbage for his gerbils, or guinea pig. I don't know, some kind of bucktooth animal, rodent. And we just sit and hang out, and you know the story of what happened.
You wrote an article for the Flyer.
I did, yeah.
But I didn't have time to revisit it. But let's play
Okay.
this Furry song and come back and talk about Furry
Sure,
Lewis.
yeah.
And what's it going to be?
I Will Turn Your Money Green.
When I was in Missouri, you would not let me be. I was in Missouri, would not let me be. Wouldn't rest contented till I came to Tennessee. If you follow me, babe, I'll turn your money green. Follow me, babe, I'll turn your money green. I'll show you more money Rockefeller ever seen. If the river was whiskey, baby, and I was a duck. River was whiskey, baby, and I was a duck. I'll die to the bottom, Lord, and I'll never come up. Lord, the woman I hate, I see her every day. Woman I hate, I see her every day. But the woman I love, she's so far away. Talking about sweetheart, I climb on his mane. Talking about sweetheart, I climb on his mane. Give my woman so many dollars, broke her apron string. give me was trouble, I'm troubled all the time. All she give me was trouble, I'm troubled all the time. I've been troubled so long, trouble don't worry my mind. I've been down so long, seem like up to me. I've been down so long, seem like up to me. Woman I love, she done quit for me. What's needing me hollering, what's needing me crying? What's needing me hollering, what's needing me crying? Woman I love, she don't pay me no mind.
And what label was that?
Vocalian.
Vocalian, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, it's
Vocalian.
This is just like a Document Records. Like I said, I'm not a blues scholar. I just
Well, you just know them.
Yeah.
Personally. Do you remember when Furry passed away?
Yes.
You were pretty damn young.
Yeah, it was. What was that? 81.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is pretty late for a blues legend to be passing away anyway.
Yeah.
But he would have probably lived a few more years. I mean.
Well, his house caught fire.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is that, he was doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because my dad and Baker were hanging out in the hospital room with him, laughing and talking and making up verses to "You're gonna look just like a monkey when you get old," and but then I guess like he developed pneumonia, and then it just sort of took him out.
When I moved here in '84, I don't know why, but I would go down to the pawn shops down Poplar Avenue.
Oh yeah,
and there was that pawn shop that had Furry's guitar case hanging up above the register, and in my ignorance, I didn't know anything about Memphis culture, blues, any of that, but I would always see that guitar case. What happened to that?
It might be in the Memphis Music Hall of Fame.
Is it?
I don't know.
Well, that would be great.
I mean, I think that guy kept trying to get like $1 bazillion for it or
Right.
something. Because he had Furry's old Martin, the one that's on the T-shirt, the Martin electric guitar.
Because it was in when the house caught on fire?
No, I mean, I don't. That's the thing. It's like I don't really remember Furry playing over there because he just what people would come to pay homage and would want him to play, and he was like, "You got to get my guitar out of hock." So they would go pay to get the guitar out of hock. He'd play for them, and then go straight and pawn it again.
Yeah. Is there a documentary on Furry, or should there be?
There should.
Wouldn't that be kind of cool to work on?
There's been a lot of really good footage and stuff, kind of like with Bruce and the '69 festival footage and all that stuff. So there's been a lot, not a documentary, but there's been a lot of nice footage.
Is there footage that no one's ever seen?
I don't know. I mean, there's some pretty obscure stuff out there. There's one that's like, it's not good. I mean, Furry's okay, but like they just put this like interrogation light on him, and you can tell like the guy's kind of whoever's doing it is kind of dismissive and is being shitty towards them, and Furry's just like,
why would he be that?
It's racist, I guess. I don't know. But Furry, you can tell he wasn't feeling it. It's weird. It's uncomfortable.
My son John and I went over to John McIntyre's house. This was during the COVID or some couple years ago, because I was trying to put out Beatnik Manor.
Right.
And McIntyre's, we're talking, and I'm trying to get the voice narration out of him and whatever that whole process was about. And then he just nonchalantly says, "Hey, guess what I got in my pocket?" I'm like, "I don't know." "John, what do you got in your pocket?" And he goes, "I got a 50-foot Super 8 reel of Furry at the country." I'm sorry, what was it called officially? The
Blues Festival?
The Blues Festival. And I'm like, I start salivating.
Right.
And I can't just say, "Well, can I have it?"
Spool it up.
Because he's either going to give it to me or he isn't.
Right.
But he didn't. And so I'm like, "Well, see you later." And I was like, and then I saw him again, and I'm like, "What happened to that so-called 50-foot reel of Furry that you had in your pocket?" "Oh, it's around somewhere." And if you've seen John's house,
oh yeah,
it's like a decayed, archaic, archivic.
There's only footage of the '69 because they did festivals from '66 to like '72.
Yeah.
There's only footage of the '69, which there's plenty of, if that's what he has.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what year.
I would love to see something from like the '68 Blues Festival.
Because there's little to show.
I don't think there's anything. But also, like,
There's nothing?
I don't know, but like it was really cool to see my dad in the 69 Blues Festival singing Since I Met You Baby with Moloch. But I was really hoping that there was footage, that's why they call it footage, have you heard the Smokestack Lightning that he does with Moloch?
I don't think so.
Who, your dad?
Yeah, he sings Smokestack Lightning with Moloch, and it is bonkers. It's so good.
And that was from the 68 festival? Or
Maybe it was 69. I think so. Robert Gordon had a tape that he gave to Luther, and Luther gave it to me, and I was like, it was kind of Moloch playing, and then it was like, I was like, what? This sounds familiar. It was halfway through it before I realized, oh my God, this is my dad singing, and it's raw, man. It's crazy. Augusta Palmer sent me a recording, like an MP3 of my dad in '66 singing Boll Weevil, and he sounds like a child. I mean, he was a child. It's like it's even more. It's keyed up more. He was singing it so high. It's crazy.
So, what year were you born?
73.
Okay, so you missed all the.
I missed, yeah.
When did it end, Frank?
I think the last official blues festival was 71, but I think there might have been another one in 72. But the 66 to like 70 and 71 was the actual the country blues festivals.
Yeah.
But the Johnny Winter performances and all that were like almost overproduced.
Yeah.
That was the end of
That was 69, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it was supposed to be the Rolling Stones.
Right. There's that whole Prodigal Son story.
Yeah, and I'm reading the Stanley Booth book right now, which I can't believe I've never read because I knew Stanley and talked to him. And I'm just now, when he passed away, started reading his book, which he mentions Furry a lot.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What, True Adventures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that Jackson Baker had done an obit on Stanley, which I'd missed originally in the flyer, but I pulled it out and caught it. I haven't read it yet. Were you connected with Stanley?
A little bit. I didn't know him as well as like Luther did. Like he was kind of in and out. I mean, the story I always tell is, Winston Eggleston and I were like, me and Winston and Luther were all the same age, and we'd hang out at like little kid birthday parties, but then we kind of lost touch, went separate ways, different schools and stuff. And then right around 1990, we've all really started hanging out again. And then especially me and Winston got just super tight, and we're always hanging out together.
What, you and Winston went to separate elementary schools or
high schools? High schools, yeah. And
where did he go?
White Station.
Oh, okay.
And I was at Central. But
two worlds, two different
I
worlds.
know, especially then. This is getting real Memphis now. Where'd you go to high school? So anyway, I was always over at Winston's mom's house, wearing at Walnut Grove. And anyway, long story long, the joke I tell is that where most kids were sneaking out of the house so that parents wouldn't know, that they were going to the party, we would sneak out of the house so Bill and Stanley wouldn't come with us. It's like
Arrested Development or
yeah,
something?
I mean, they just wanted to go somewhere and drink, and
Right.
like they're like, yeah, we're gonna come with you. It's like, no,
Should have brought him to Distemper House.
this is a little later than that.
Yeah, we were evicted from Distemper House.
Oh, really? For parties or not paying rent?
We were housing a teenage runaway with an orange mohawk.
Okay.
And then Skinhead Jeff, the
Yeah,
poser.
Jeff the poser,
who was
yeah.
an incredible bass player.
Jeff got me. He got me hip to Parliament, Funkadelic.
There you go. I mean, Jeff at the time, were you 13 and he was 23? He probably was better than you, maybe.
Yeah,
but maybe not. Who's to say? I'm blown away by all the extreme bass playing in the.
I mean, and that was kind of like that. That was dividing line is whether or not you could play the intro to John Wayne was a Nazi. That was like the big thing.
Well, we had written a song called Genghis Khan Killed a Duke about the whole, cancer. Everybody who shot Genghis Khan with John Wayne in 1954 died from cancer.
Oh, wow.
Because they shot it at the nuclear desert test site in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So, that was one of the Distemper songs. Well, I guess what I'm saying is that George and I were capable of playing, but we had to be inspired. I had to have something to write about, or to even. And I was following George's lead. Jeff came in from St. Louis, kind of out of nowhere. He had no place to stay. The next thing I know, and if George was cool with somebody staying there, then I was amazed because I could barely stay there, and I was paying the rent.
Right.
And then here's this skinhead dude playing the bass. You, on the other hand, were just playing from my memory, capably anything because it's in your blood to do that. I never got to know Jeff well enough to ever know where his talent, interest, everything lie, because he had a crew cut at the beginning. Then he became a skinhead. Then, someone said, "Hey, Jeff, you're a vegan and you're wearing a leather jacket. You're a hypocrite," and he, what did he say? He's like, "I wear the guilt." That's what, about the leather jacket. And so then I told my friend Charles Berlin, I said, "Hey, I got to get a leather jacket. I mean, it's way past time. George has got one.
Yeah.
Jeff's wearing the guilt." And so Charles is like, "Well, we got to go to Burlington Coat Factory at Eastgate Shopping Center," which is still there. Still there. So I go and I spend $200 fucking dollars. I've never spent that much on my entire clothing budget at 23 years old. I buy a Shots. $200 freaking dollars.
I was wearing one when I walked in.
There you go. Sorry, I should have. I had a passing thought today, but since I'm getting old, I didn't.
Well, you're still trim though.
My son is wearing it all the time.
I mean, a Shot is a jacket for life, literally. I mean,
tell me about it. Yeah, no, John's wearing it all the time, and I just let him have it.
Be careful with that, John.
It's almost 40. It's 40-something years old. Anyway, I buy the jacket, and then when I'm trying to impress Kim, who I'm dating at the time in Corinth, Mississippi, I'm like, "Can I borrow your army boots, Jeff?"
Right.
So I wore Jeff's army boots, and I wore the gilt to Corinth, which there was no gilt in Corinth, and impressed everybody with my punk rockness.
You pronounce it Corinth.
Corinth?
Because I've heard a lot of people from Corinth pronounce it Corinth.
Well, now that I'm divorced, I don't have to pronounce it at all.
No.
Hey-o. Carl Perkins' wife is from Corinth.
Yeah.
I always like to bring that up. Frank, that means nothing to you,
My friend Corin Jones has family in
Corinth,
and they call her Karin. We're getting off track here.
I thought we were talking about Furry Lewis.
Yeah.
So
what? I did actually, before I even started messing around with drums, I did get. I still have the Christmas list somewhere. I said I want a bass guitar just my size, like because I was a kid, little.
Yeah.
Because I was in the throes of Kiss, and
well, that was like George's short neck Fender.
Yeah. So I got a bass for Christmas. There's like a picture of me like in full rock pose.
In the throes of Kiss.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't want to go for the Space Ace thing, but
right.
So anyway, I had a bass before I had anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I understand that. So there was this energy in the scene then, and I felt like Distemper House was the epicenter, and there you were, and I had no idea you lived so close. You were talking earlier about Bullshit and all these different fanzines. Yeah. Well, how much of that stuff do you still have left from that period?
None. Nothing. No.
How come?
A couple of reasons. We moved in 1990. We moved from the house in Autumn to the Shrine Building downtown, and it was murky circumstances that I won't get into. But basically, we just took everything that we were going to keep and left everything else in the house. And I guess I was sort of traumatized by the fact that we were moving. I found out that we were moving after I'd spent 48 hours in juvenile court. That's a whole other story. But so like I left a ton of shit at that house
at Autumn
on 1694 Autumn, like including about a 5.5 foot stack of skateboards, like 80s skateboards.
So you didn't even know you were moving.
I mean, I did. But it wasn't a traditional move.
Well, what
real estate deal?
So you're talking about a bunch of things here. So why you were arrested underage?
Yeah, I was working a dishwasher at Squash Blossom.
How old?
16. So I worked Friday nights and Saturday mornings. So Friday night I did what I always did. It was just me and the guy. I think it was Gary Golightly up front, but I would go back behind the cooler and grab a beer and just walk home because I lived right there. Mm. But then there was a party over on those apartments, like it's not Stonewall, but like those streets just east of Stonewall on Poplar. Anyway, there's a party. And my buddy
Willette and
Willette.
You're over in Dan Ball territory.
Exactly. I was going to say right by Dan Ball.
Oh, that's trouble.
Okay, so this is so boring, but
no.
this dude Bart Gann had just turned 18 that
Who?
night. This guy Bart Gann had turned. It was his 18th birthday that night, and he had just bought our friend Lucy Hathcote's '68 Buick Skylark. So he's like, I'm going to go to Taco Bell. And I was like, I'm hungry.
Which is still there.
It's still there. There was a big hepatitis outbreak, and they had to tear it down and build a new one.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm hungry. So like, it's just literally we could see it from there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So like, we go and like, there's these girls in front of us in the drive-through, like cute girls in the Jeep. Right.
You still remember?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Cute girls in a Jeep at the drive-thru at Taco Bell on Poplar.
yeah, and so Bart peels out after him, you know, and then follows him, and then turns left on Tucker into the park through the light.
Not good.
So then we get out of the park and then get popped, and so I'm sitting there, and you know, in the car while he's talking. The cop's talking to Bart. So
At Tucker and
right by the high tone, it was like, you know, we pulled into the driveway of like where that sort of complex that's on the hill that has a falling apart wall.
well, okay,
right now.
so if you made it from Evergreen down to Tucker, you made some distance from the cops.
No. The cop pulled us out when we were leaving the park. Yeah. He saw it all go down at Taco Bell. But so yeah. And then like he gets to me, it's just like, you know, you're out violation of curfew and public intoxication. I was like, dude, I'd had one beer, but
I wouldn't have admitted. Well,
I didn't say that. I was just like
curfew
after midnight
for
a
underage.
minor, yeah.
Okay.
So Bart went to 201, and then I went to Adams Avenue. And but my mom was working as a nurse at Methodist, and she just knew that she was going to get called in to work on her day off. So she took the landline phone, because that's all there was, off the hook. So when they called my parents, it was busy, and then they just didn't, because you couldn't call from the jailhouse. They had, as a minor, they called for you.
Okay. I
And-
thought you got a phone call.
Nope. And so then they just, you know, it was, I don't even know if they tried one more time after it was busy. So I just kept being there.
You stayed the night.
And most of the next day, my dad had to like do sleuthing and find out where I was.
No kidding.
And I mean, I didn't think I was ever going to get out of that thing, man.
You didn't have any ID on you?
Yeah. But
They couldn't reach,
like I said, it was busy, and I'm sure they just was like,
but they couldn't reach out to your SID or just. I don't understand. They couldn't. How long would you have stayed there?
and I don't know.
Until cell phones were invented,
Yeah.
he could call somebody else.
Yeah. Until I turned 18 and got put
Until you were sober.
Yeah. It was a wild ride.
Too bad
man.
you didn't have a guitar.
Yeah.
So you really related to Furry then.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't recommend it.
Well, you know, so skip ahead 80 million years. You were gracious enough to play drums in a band that I formed called Fingers Like Saturn.
Yeah, because you wouldn't let me play guitar in it.
But you did on the record.
A little bit.
A little bit. Because I couldn't play.
Right.
Well, you said, give me that thing.
And
I'm, when Steve says, give me that thing, I'm like, okay, thank God.
God, I hope Rod Norwood hears this.
Well, is he still alive, Rod Norwood? You picked me up because I like to be picked up from the house. I don't like to spend gas money on any potential sort of situation. And we go out to Tall Trees, the abandoned teenage psycho ward, because Steve started complaining. He's like, you've got too much of this attractive Frazetta painting like female lead singer in our band in the video for a Black Ray of Sunshine, Fingers Like Saturn, that Black and Wyatt put out, first record they put out. Shameless plug. And I'm like, Steve, we're going to put you in the video. But you're going to play drums at Tall Trees, which is the abandoned teenage psycho facility out on Lamar.
I'm not remembering it like this, but okay.
Well, you can tell me your version. And so we go out there, and this is across the street from Catwalk, the topless club, which I can't tell if it's abandoned or if it's super busy. It's like one of those. It's like kind of like my career. But so we go into this abandoned Tall Trees place, which is still there with the windows busted out, and and you set up a drum kit.
Yes.
In various places, and we get and Buddy Gray is with us. God rest his soul.
God rest his soul.
And we get these, shooting. We start filming Steve playing the drums on Black Ray of Sunshine. And then I see the police coming up the driveway. And I'm like, won't they leave Steve alone? I mean, his incarceration was a long time ago. What beef could they possibly have with him? And Steve, you didn't know the police were there, and Buddy didn't either. Buddy was the cameraman, and I'm like, hurry up, get the shot. Come on, chop, play the drums. It doesn't matter what you play, just play. And Buddy's like, well, we don't have the playback ready. I'm like, just play the fucking drums. The cops are coming up the driveway. So the next thing I know, me and you and Buddy are in the back seat of the cop car.
Up close and personal.
Which is made out of plastic.
Yeah.
I guess in case people throw up. Or
easy to clean.
Hose it out.
Yeah.
And I thought you were freaking out more than me and Buddy. And that's when I realized, hey, I don't want to do this again. I hope I'm not being too personal here. But you're like, I cannot believe we're doing this, and I'm here with you in this video.
No. Okay. All right. Okay. First of all, like,
am I doing it wrong? Am I telling you wrong?
In no way, shape, or form was I ever like feature me in the video. and I certainly I would not relish the idea of lugging a drum kit around and setting it up. And
somehow it happened.
Yeah. Well, you're persuasive.
I make people drink the Kool-Aid.
So because I know that I wasn't gunning for this, because by the time we got in the back of the cop car, I was like, why am I dealing with this motherfucker? Like, I can't like.
Well, no, look, listen, thank you.
Yeah. It makes for a great story now.
And we had some personal conversations like, hey, Mike, what's it like to have kids? I remember you asking me that. I remember you asking me that. And I'm like, wow, nobody's ever asked me that before.
I think we had just started trying at that point.
And I'm like, Steve, I don't have kids. No, we had kids by that point. But do you remember how we got out of it?
Did you talk our way out of it?
I'm sitting in the middle. You're on my left. Buddy's on my right. And these cops are like, what are y'all doing here? This is where people come to do drugs before they go to the catwalk.
Right.
They shoot up inside tall trees. And I'm like, well,
Sweet.
I said, look, we're just a band, and we're filming a video. You see Buddy with the camera. You see the drum kit.
Yeah.
We're going out of our way to shoot up if this is what we're doing. And he goes, oh, y'all are a band. He's like, what do y'all play? And I said, the Antenna Club, which really would have been the Nocturnal.
Right.
And he goes, Antenna Club?
That's right.
And in 5 minutes, we were out of the car and on our way home.
Yeah.
Because the cops knew about the Antenna Club. You don't remember that part of it?
I don't. Kind of.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring all that up.
It was a long time ago.
But, it's cool to be in the back of a cop car with Steve and Buddy, and, all you're doing is making a rock video, and yet you wind up getting in trouble because you veered out of Midtown.
Knowing you, I can't believe you weren't filming that.
Yeah.
Buddy should have been filming it, but I guess I didn't make that evident.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's hope we're not in the back of a
But
cop
it made
car
me
again.
feel horrible because then what the story you just told, then you told me then.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you've got a record.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't as bad
in
as
more ways than one.
I sat in the back of a taxi cab in Tunisia, in Tunis, while I thought the cops were going to take me to jail.
Okay.
But
third time's a charm.
it didn't. Yeah, it lasted from 11 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning.
Why? You were playing?
No, we were at this terrible dance club that played terrible dance music. And kind of Night at the Roxbury kind of thing. And I don't there had been an attempt on the president's life, and it was a bunch of friends split up into different cabs, and I was with this girl Nancy who was Egyptian but spoke with an American accent or whatever. She's I don't know what they thought was going on, but I was a long-haired, skinny white dude from America, and I guess I don't know what they thought I was up to, but
wow,
it was scary.
Okay, we're finding out about the real Steve Selvidge here. Frank, do you have any questions?
Is that how you get gigs now? Because rap sheet, rock and roll, you got to have a rap sheet, man.
Well, none of it stuck, though. Yeah, no, I'm the Teflon Selvidge.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call, and I meant to turn my ringer off.
Oh, no.
I apologize.
Are you going to answer it on the air?
I don't know.
Yes, he is.
Hello? I'm sorry, who's this?
This is Rob, man. It's fucking Selvidge over there. I really need to talk to his ass.
What?
Rod, I told you never to call me at this number.
This is set up.
Look, I need to talk to that motherfucker now.
Dennis, are you picking this up?
What? Speak, motherfucker.
Speak. What the fuck are you doing, man?
I'm recording the podcast.
You got a goddamn contract with me. You didn't clear shit. I ain't got paid.
You didn't read shit.
Your ass.
You didn't read a goddamn thing.
You signed that motherfucker when you was 18 years old. I just found it yesterday. You're fucked.
No, buddy.
Now what you gonna do?
You know, I had Corey Trotz. Look at that.
Trotz ain't shit, man. He ain't no heavy hitter no more.
Oh, but this is when he was coming up. He was.
The fucking commercials.
This is when he was coming up. See, you didn't know. You didn't know him like I knew him back then. You weren't in the loop.
My guy will fuck Trotz up.
Well, hey, motherfucker. I'm talking now, okay? I'm on the podcast.
Let's say something. You want to talk?
I said, hey, I'm talking now.
Talk.
I am. I'm going to talk to these people about stuff in the podcast.
No, man.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you
look,
and I had things to discuss.
okay, so how are you going to get out here? I'm in East Memphis. How are you going to get out here? Huh? You going to drive? You going to have me to come pick you up? Non-driving motherfucker.
Look, I'll tell you what. I'll deal with your ass tomorrow. But you just remember, this shit ain't over with.
Okay, well, just maybe if I take your call tomorrow, I don't know. I got a lot to do.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
We got to get back to. Oh shit! He hung up on you. Damn, that's like a wrestling match kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
He'll probably unfriend me on Facebook.
Look. I'm turning my phone off. Who the hell? Who is that?
Ron Norwood.
Is that who it is?
Yeah. Have you heard of Visiting Angels? It's where the like people like they go and they take care of the elderly. Back when like I was kind of
you mean like hospice?
Yeah, I was in between tours, and so I needed something to do. So I signed up to be a visiting angel, and they put me with this guy, and it turned sour quick. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So you never worked with him before at a guitar shop?
Oh. Yeah. Well. Yeah, I did.
You don't want to talk about that?
It was. I mean,
in between arrests.
Yeah. Skirmishes. I made the store what it was. Yeah.
Would this be a good time to play a song?
Sure. Get me out of this.
I bought my first guitar from Ron Hanks downtown.
That's right. Yeah. That was a great guitar store.
Did you meet Steve at that point?
I don't.
He was not there that day.
Yeah.
I might have been going to school at Memphis State.
Or in jail.
Yeah. I know. I
I'm sorry. I had to go there.
Yeah.
I had to go there. All right. So, okay. I'm sorry. I won't answer the phone.
Yeah.
That's just weird that Rod would call like that.
That's so strange.
He lives right across the street from me.
I know.
Yeah.
I couldn't put these pieces together.
I will say this. It's very sweet, a very sweet story, so we can move on. I see Rod come out of his house because, I'm always looking out the front door.
Sure.
When I have things to do. And Rod's teetering outside on the sidewalk, and I go out on the porch, and I'm like, Rod, do you need a chair? What are you doing? I'm waiting on Selvidge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's like, yeah, bring me a chair. And I'm like, okay, well, this is cool. This is what you do in Cooper Young. You help out your neighbors.
Right.
So I take him a chair over, and we sit there and hang out for a while and talk about the Faces, or I don't know what the hell we talk about. And then eventually you show up, and then I help him in the car, and then y'all go off and eat dinner. And I'll always remember that.
Yeah, I think probably I took him over to Crosstown Brewing to get a beer.
I thought maybe you dropped him off at the facility or something.
Oh, I do that too. I do that too. But I remember we were at Crosstown, and I told him that there was this beer that he really liked, and I was like, you know what? I'll buy you a 4-pack of Tall Boys or whatever.
Damn.
So I went and settled my tab, and it was like we were leaving, and I'd forgotten.
Tall Boys.
Yeah, of like IPA or something.
So he's loaded.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And but I forget to pick up the Tall Boys, and Rod screams, "My stuff! I want my stuff!" like across the room, I want my treats. So I have to go and do a whole nother check to pay for those.
Do you pay in check?
No, I had to, tab out.
Oh, okay. You don't write a check though.
No.
I still do checks.
No,
I'm still lost in the 20th century.
I can't remember the last time I wrote a check.
I bet Rod's writing checks.
Man, no, he's not.
You don't think he's doing any of that?
It-
Maybe Rita's doing it.
If you can write a check for some like moths.
So did Rod hire you to work at the guitar shop?
Yeah.
So who was Hank? I never met Hank or knew Hank.
Hank was kind of came in as a partner.
Okay.
He lived in Nashville, but like they are kind of like
Really?
pooling their resources, and then he eventually moved to Memphis.
Did you work there when Jeff Evans worked there?
A little bit. I was
Really?
touring a lot by that point.
Okay.
But we would kind of overlap sometimes.
Touring with who?
Big Ass Truck.
Let's talk about Big Ass Truck.
Okay.
How did that come together? That's a lot of cool people in one band.
Yeah. So me and Robbie Grant had been in a band. I joined his band, Thrill Confusion, and then that band sort of restructured, lost our singer, and changed our name to Fester, which people say that's a bad band name.
Were there records or documents of any of these bands?
Both bands cut demos with Roland James at Sam Phillips.
Damn.
Yeah. And so anyway, that band was kind of going nowhere, and like there was like the drummer and bass player were kind of like, let's smoke pot all the time, and then Robbie and I were kind of like, let's not and do other things. So anyway, we just kind of started playing noise and like not really getting along. And
This is back to Uncensored again.
right. And then so one of the shows that we were like not playing songs was with the Simpletons. And Jared, rest in peace, liked it so much. This was back in the day. I'm hanging out over in Cowden with Winston and his brother Bill in a house they're living in, and Andrea Lyle tracks me down over there and was like, "Hey, Jared wants your band to open up for the Simpletons at the Antenna." And I was like, "Well, that band's not really doing anything, but let me put something together, and we'll do that." So, and Colin Butler, the DJ in Big Ass Truck, and I had been kind of trying to get something going. So, I just Hail Married like the people I played with most recently. Robbie and I have been doing things. I kind of done some messing around with Joe Boone, with him playing bass.
Oh, yeah.
My brother grew up with Robert Barnett, is good friend, so I've known Robert. I was just like, I'll just get Robert. And then we brought in Alex Green, and we practiced like 2 or 3 times and had like songs. And
Wait, so you're saying that if Andrea hadn't asked you to open for the Simpletons, Big Ass Truck wouldn't have come together in that way?
exactly,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Andrea's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the message was from Jared, but like
Right.
Andrea, because I remember Andrea from the Antenna Club days,
Oh God, yeah.
and so we we played that show, and it went over really well, and like we could tell everybody was excited about like in the band what was going on, like we were coming up with songs.
And where was this?
What was the show?
Yeah.
Antenna Club.
Okay.
Yeah. I swear to God, the way I remember it was just that night, Gina and Andrea were like, we want to do a 7-inch. And I was like, we just played our first show. And now we're going to do a 7-inch. So we went back to Roland James and recorded a bunch of songs that Sugar Ditch put out on 45. And
Sugar Ditch was.
Andrea and Gina, I don't see Gina Bryant now.
Oh, Shelby's wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was their they did a Ross Johnson thing, I think. They did.
You got that, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what else did the Sugar Ditch put out? Oh, Simpletons.
Yeah, Simpletons. And was the Big Ass Truck on Slinger Ditch? Could I have that too?
Yeah.
I don't remember what label.
Yeah, with the Tonka truck on
Yeah.
it. Yep, it was Sugar Ditch.
Andrea did quite a few releases.
Yeah, it was really it was incredibly exciting for me.
And you're talking about 1990?
93.
Oh, okay.
So we have it on video somewhere. Our first rehearsal was in like December of 92, and the gig was in January of 93.
Wow. I remember we were in touch somehow. We had probably the first time I'd talked to you since the Distemper days, and you said, hey, I want you and George to come to a Big Ass Truck show. And so he and I came out and saw you guys, and it was great. And it was like, to me, it was like the first time we had reconnected since the hardcore days.
Right, yeah.
And that was great.
No, I mean, because like
I don't remember what year it was, but
I had bands through high school, but nothing really stuck, So I wasn't like, I was gigging hard at 13 and then kind of fell off.
meanwhile, Luther's going, what?
Yeah. But then he got DDT going, and then they were doing a lot.
That's true. With Paul Taylor.
Yeah. And then, so it was really cool to like have Big Ass Truck kind of coalesce and like, and do stuff.
But what was the style of Big Ass Truck?
About 17 words with hyphens in between them. I mean, it was like we were really inspired by like Booker T and the Meters, but also hip hop stuff and all the 80s stuff that we grew up on, like hip hop wise and sampling, but also like the whole sort of funkadelic, especially for me and my guitar playing. It was like I think we called it like psychedelic funk rock with some hip hop. I don't know.
Frank, what's your take on that?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And you did a Christmas record.
Yeah. In 96, I think.
Yeah.
Remember the Habitat? No, it was Starry Nights. I can't remember what organization was putting it out. But anyway, they wanted to do, a CD or a cassette that you play in your car when you go through Starry Nights.
Okay.
And so Posey Hedges had his studio over in Cooper. He was the first guy in town with Pro Tools. So we just went in and arranged a version of Do You Hear What I Hear? And it was just like, it was great. But whatever organization it was, they were like, you can't call it Big Ass Truck. So our Christmas music entity is called Big Angelic Truck. So we did that, and then like 2 years later, we did another one, and I arranged like this version of Holly Jolly Christmas, and it came out even better. And it's honestly some of my favorite recordings we've ever done. Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, I like Christmas music for one thing. I just dig Christmas.
It's good. Every time I make a Memphis Christmas mix, I always have that both sides of that 45 on
Thank
there.
you. Yeah. It's fun, like it's got a good vibe to it, and and then I guess it was like Tiger Bryant or somebody from the Young Avenue Deli, because we were playing the Deli a lot at that time. They're like, let's put out a 7-inch. So we put it out on Peabody, with a Peabody label.
How so? How did that? Well, talk about Peabody for a minute.
So Peabody is my dad's label. He started in '76 to release his album, The Cold of the Morning. And so that was his kind of, boutique imprint or whatever that he put out some of his records, and like Flies on Sherbert, Alex Chilton, Vanilla, Sybil Shepherd.
Has Peabody landed in your lap? Like that's your...
Yeah. So, in 2020 lockdown, me and Luther Dickinson and Paul Taylor kind of started sending files to one another just as something to do, because we didn't have any gigs. And, it snowballed into this massive project that turned out to be this record, and we call it MEMMODS, MEM_MODS. And so I put that out on vinyl on Peabody. But yeah, I mean,
you know about that, Dennis? Okay. And what year was that?
Well, we recorded it in 2020, and then I guess it came out in 21 or maybe 22.
So who did you use to put that out? Nashville?
Like who made the record?
Like record pressing?
Memphis Record Pressing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you went through MRP. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you've told me before, but wasn't Peabody somebody else's label, and then your dad like just kind of took it over or got it, or?
Yeah, Robert Williams. He had like this Quonset hut over on Chelsea, and he had made speakers. He had done all this stuff, and he was like, it's like, okay, we're going to start a label, and they had John King involved, and it was going to be like all the stuff to do things. My dad decided to call it Peabody, and they're on it together. Robert he liked to come up with ideas and start things, but once it was like something that was going to exist and he had to follow through with, he was like, So he was just like, here, you can have it. Peabody Records is yours.
Was it started specifically to put out your dad's record, or?
Yeah. Because what had happened was like, my dad he'd had that record on Enterprise, Portrait, and then he got a deal with Elektra in the early 70s, and him and Nix went down to Muscle Shoals to do that record. And, it was like, do I do my dissertation for anthropology, or do I do this record? And he's like, I'm going to do this record. And then they went down, they recorded it. mixed, mastered artwork in the can.
Never.
And so I can't remember who bought Elektra, but a bigger label bought Elektra, and we have 3 folk singers. We need 1. And so they went with Harry Chapin. So then after that, it was like, what am I going to do? So then he kind of regrouped, and then he got that, I think it was Wednesday nights at the Procope. And that's kind of where The Cold of the Morning is sort of a snapshot of his set, at the Procope. And so he wanted to capture that, but he also was just like, I'm tired of dealing with these labels, so let's just put it out.
Do it himself.
Yeah.
When I see it, and him knowing Furry and all the blues guys, when I see the look of the label, it almost reminds me of the blues comps that would have that look.
Well,
and
it's a take on Bluebird Records.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I always knew that, but I was on tour and I bought a Little Brother Montgomery record, who's a great piano blues man. And I was just like, oh my God, there it is, Bluebird. It's like, so instead of a bluebird, it's a duck, and instead of music notes, it's like cattails. But yeah, it was just like he was like, I'm just going to do this on my own, not deal with anybody.
Do you want to put out more Peabody records, like physically?
I would like to. I've been loosely sort of working on a drone record.
I heard.
Yeah. Which is like so commercial. I could see putting that out, but it probably at this point would just be straight to digital.
God forbid you should be commercial.
Well,
outside of the 240 loop.
Yeah. But that's a drone record is incredibly esoteric, but it's also just kind of what I'm into. But
obviously we haven't even brought up Bash and Pop or Hold Steady, all that. But when you're playing with these guys that you're integrated into, this is your bands. Do you have your own? Do you have Peabody Records at the merch table for these other entities?
I could, but like I haven't really.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
You totally could, though.
Yeah. But I have just like to lug a bunch of records on an airplane, and and it's just, I don't know. It's just one more thing for Josh to do. So,
do you want to talk about these other bands that you've infiltrated? And I wanted, one of the thoughts that I wanted to really penetrate your brain on is, how do you approach joining another band and then giving them what they want, but at the same time being Steve Selvidge? And can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. Well, with the Hold Steady, like I knew those guys because when I was in the Bloodthirsty Lovers with Dave Schaus, we were on the same label, French Kiss. Okay. And we were touring with them when they're we had records out, and it was their first record. So, we were doing a lot of the same stuff, and then the Lovers kind of ended, and they started to get bigger. Hold Steady did, but I just kept in touch, mainly with Tad, the other guitar player.
Who are the members of Hold Steady?
So Craig Finn, vocals, he writes lyrics and everything, and then Tad Kubler, guitar, Galen Polifka, bass, Franz Nikolai, keyboards, and Bobby Drake, drums.
And where are they from?
Most of them, except for myself and Franz, a keyboard player, are all Midwesterners. Okay. Like Bobby and Finn grew up in Minneapolis. Galen grew up in Milwaukee, and Tad was in Janesville, Wisconsin. When Tad called me, when the Franz, who's back in the band now, but Franz quit. And they were like, what are we going to do? And so they had to hire a ringer keyboard player. And it was like, let's get a second guitar player. And so Tad called me, But to your question, I don't know, man. I'm a little bit, I can be a little bit of a chameleon. Like I can sort of code switch my way into a situation, we're all coming from the same language of the stuff we grew up in. And I've been on the road forever anyway. So it wasn't that wasn't anything new to me. I'd never been on a bus before, but I wasn't having to learn the ropes or anything,
What do you mean you weren't on the bus before?
That was I prior to that had not toured on a bus.
How grueling was that? Or maybe it wasn't grueling at all.
Well, it was certainly, it was in some ways it was a lot nicer. You had somewhere to go if you didn't have a good backstage. There was certainly a learning curve of just a bunch of new faces and just kind of where I fit in or anything. But I just observe and kind of keep quiet and keep out of the way. You know, if I know I have a situation where I can make somebody laugh, then I'll do that. You know, but I mean, you know, you can read all about it in our book.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we put out a book last year.
Is there photos?
Yeah.
I don't read unless there's photos.
There's a lot of photos.
Oh, good.
They're big too.
Captions.
Yeah.
All right.
It's an oral history of the Hold Steady.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Get it on Amazon, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's from our point of view.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that we've worked with. But
So how many releases have happened that you've played on, and what's your history with the band?
well, so I've been in the band for it'll be 15 years.
Good God,
This,
really?
This March, that we put out 4 records
Okay.
since I've been in the band. It was a long space between the record that I started touring with that they had made prior to my joining the band to the record that we made that came out in 2014.
So these things gestate. It's not like you're pumping them out. You're
Well,
like
we did pretty like the last 3 records we did fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Like Franz came back and we were writing a lot, and so you know.
So then you have a hand in the texture of
Well, I wrote songs,
the arrangements.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, basically either Franz, Tad, or myself brings in a song, and then whatever Craig can fit into.
But you started writing songs way early,
Yeah.
and but not singing.
No.
So when did the singing start? The vocals start?
I mean, I always like sang, but I never had anything to write about. I wasn't like, you know, a lyricist. So I wasn't like a singer-songwriter. But then
Right. Why is that?
I ask myself every day. I'm just
Life experiences, or
I'm just not a lyricist.
Yeah.
You know? I just never had the muscle to put it together like that.
Right.
I mean, you know, I'm trying to be better, but I'm in so many typical ways. Like, I'm just a guitar player. It's like not paying attention to the words.
I kind of believe you, but not really.
I mean, some, yes, but like, I don't know.
I wouldn't have written anything except I had something to write about.
Yeah.
Which meant that I was middle-aged and I had things to reflect on.
Right.
And that's my story. But then after that spurt of what that was with you and I playing together,
Yeah.
I had nothing else to say.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
I don't want to talk. I don't want to write about anything if I don't feel like I have any authority on it.
Yeah. I mean, and I never landed on anything, you know.
Much less sing about it.
Yeah. But now, you know, most of the singing that I do is like when we're doing like Sons of Mudboy or if I'm doing my gig, which is just obscure covers and stuff.
And okay, talk about your gig for a minute. You play out and about.
Yeah,
Midtown.
just like around town, DK, Rail Garden. Well, not even Rail Garden anymore, but
Right.
Yeah, I just at some point I was like, I got to put together a set, you know, where I'm singing and fronting the band, you know, because I think every musician should have to front a band.
To the point of a solo album?
Nah,
No,
I don't know.
really.
I work at a glacial pace.
Well, global warming's happening.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
glacial pace. Well, but that's okay though.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of like wherever it takes me, you know.
If you were going to put out a solo album, what would be the overarching theme of it for Steve Selvidge? Or does that matter to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to, you know, have something with my name on it. I don't know. It would probably it would sound like Eddie Hazel playing Ferry Lewis. I don't know.
Would it be on a Peabody release?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else would pony up money for it.
Well, since you escaped the 240, maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate that there's no Danny Fields out there 50 years later that are sponsoring, looking for, you know, rock and roll. Rock and roll's falling off the meter.
Yeah. And, you know, cis white males, we've had a good run of it, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, it's probably good that other people are coming along.
Do you think that rock and roll has progressed itself out of the commercial spectrum?
I don't know, because the commercial spectrum is so chopped up now.
Well, now I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking,
so the whole steady is commercially successful, right? But only in a touring way that sells records?
I mean, nobody sells records anymore. I mean, we're like a big indie band. We're not near as big as like Spoon, you know, or certainly like not the War on Drugs, you know.
I don't even know who that is.
Okay. They're two bands.
Okay.
But
Frank, do you know who?
I've heard the names, but I don't know their music.
we have a great community around us, the Hold Steady.
But just to talk about Memphis for a minute.
Yeah.
Your involvement, being immersed in Memphis culture and the legacy of everything, makes everything that you do or involved in or that you are decide to play with more interesting. You lead. I mean, Memphis created rock and roll.
Yeah.
You're from Memphis. You have an authority. I mean, Frank, you know what I'm saying? You have an authority that supersedes everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had good teachers and good people to look up to.
Exactly.
And you can't fuck around in Memphis, you know.
What do you mean you can't fuck around in Memphis?
You got to have your shit together musically, you know.
And even then, you might not be liked.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it goes, you know, I'm not just talking about like, you know, technical proficiency, but like you have to have you know, an intangible to really get over. But I don't know, man. I just looked at my dad and the way he navigated through things, and you know, just be cool, don't be a dick. You know, it's really it comes down to that.
I saw your dad play at the loose end or the north end.
North End every Friday and Saturday night.
But all those things had end attached to them over there.
South End.
South End.
Yeah.
Saw him play there, talked to him quite a bit. He would come in the Mill Center where I worked.
Yeah.
But I never felt like I had like the conversation with him where I felt like I had arrived as an artist, where I could like meet him like on a face-to-face sort of level.
Well, you know, I'm sure he was kind to you.
Oh no, he was great. But he was aware of like crazy underground stuff.
Yeah. I mean, he came and saw Uncensored at the Antenna Club.
What do you think?
Okay, so he loved it. He loved it. The thing was I'm trying to remember it. I think it was some iteration of Metro Waste. Like,
I'm gonna have to get Uncle Roy in here.
Yeah, I mean, because I want to say this is fuzzy. I want to say it was Andy Campora singing. He's the older, right?
The Memphis King, Sing King.
Matt's younger. Andy's older, right?
Everybody's younger to me.
Right. Well, anyway, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was some iteration of Metro Waste.
Iteration.
But
is Metro Waste? Those guys are maybe they're not even here anymore. Mike Schiffer checked out.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, no, Aaron Broughton was in Sobering Consequences. That guy was my hero. Because he was so good.
You know what George called Sobering Consequences?
No.
So boring.
So that's right. I remember that. Yeah, I love Sobering Consequences because I was straight edge.
George just liked to,
they had some good jams. Anyway, the band starts, and and then let's just say it's Andy Campora, but he just has the mic. He's the singer. He's like bullshit.
Religious bullshit.
Righteous bullshit.
Well, Reagan bullshit. They had different names for the RBS.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My dad loved that. It cracked him. He was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. He loved the energy and the fuck you of it. And he's still years he would bring that up.
What year was that?
86, probably.
Furry missed it by 5 years.
Yeah.
He loved it though.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And he liked that I was working,
He saw a connection to, I guess, the underground connectivity to Chilton and Lee Baker and what he was doing, and all the Flies on Sherbert and all that, and the Cramps. And did your dad hang out with the Cramps during those periods of time?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't recall. No, because I was cognizant at that point, and I remember Alex coming over a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is what happened, but I don't know. Because this is in the hardcore days, I was really super into the Cramps. And I had found, just in the records we had in our house, Vengeance Records 45.
The one Alex did?
Yeah, The Surfing Bird and The Way I Walk. And I showed it to Alex, check it out, Alex, look like that. Never saw that thing again, man. I was like, I think Alex stole that record from me. I don't know. I don't want to talk ill about the dead, but
oh God.
Was there ever a point when you were a kid that you were like, my parents and their friends aren't like the other kids' parents?
Oh
and
yeah,
friends.
yeah. Well, look,
Realize what they did and who they were.
yeah. Nobody was throwing a bottle of hot sauce through their kitchen TV. Eggleston did that. Okay. But so Luther and I have this. I mean, Jim and my dad had some, varying styles of how they, were in their household. But Luther and I just had this riff on 70s dad. Like, they were total just 70s dad. Like, I just found myself, like, writing down a list of gifts that my kid got so he can do thank you notes. I was like, fucking 70s dad would not be doing this, man. But yeah, people just used to drop by. And like, too, man, like, rock and roll, but academics like to get slippery as much as the rock and roll people.
Yeah.
My dad would have these, when he was teaching at Southwestern anthropology, they'd have faculty parties, and that shit was lit, man. These grown-ups are acting foolish.
Like cavemen?
I mean, no, like madmen.
Well, I was going to ask you, your dad studying anthropology, he's
Yes.
playing music, he's hanging out with Furry, and he's
Right.
raising you and your brother and your mom. And your mom's all there. So it's like, that's got to be your untypical 70s, whatever you want to call it.
Well, also,
being
like,
raised.
my mom was married, and she was 9 years older than my dad, was married with 3 kids and divorced.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because my dad met my Uncle Jim at Macaulay, was then a military school in Chattanooga, and that's how he met my mom. But he was like 16 and she was 25.
What?
But yeah, she was married to a gay man, and she was eventually like, I'm just out of here. With 3 kids.
You have 3-step.
Yeah, Kathy.
I'm sorry, half.
Kathy, Eddie, and Edith. But yeah, I mean, so it was kind of. I mean, there were, Kathy was 18 when I was born, so she was just about out of the house. But there was a lot of people around,
For you growing up.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I remember. I think his name was Gary Wainwright. He was a student of my dad's, and he shows up in a brand new BMW Alpina, and he's like, hey, and my parents are out, and it's just my brother was old enough to where we could, he could be in charge or whatever, babysitting. His guy's like, hey man, I'm a friend of your dad's. I take anthropology from your dad, and yeah, man, look, I just got this new BMW. You want to go on a ride in it? And I just looked at my brother. He's like, yeah, sure. So the next thing I know, we are fucking screaming down North Parkway. I mean, just hauling ass. And he's like, this is awesome. And then, we just take a couple of laps, and he just drops us off. He's like, all right, tell your dad hello. And yeah, my dad wasn't happy about that. But we'd be having dinner, and we'd hear the door open, and then you'd hear piano playing. And it was like Bill Eggleston had just showed up, didn't say a word, just walked in the house, started playing piano, and might not even speak to us, and then split. I used to go in and make screwdrivers for Alex when he was hanging out on the porch. So yeah.
What year was that?
84, 85. I mean, it's fuzzy. I don't know. Maybe 86. I guess it was different.
To jump ahead here again, the recordings, you sent me 3 recordings that I had no idea what these were going to be. I thought they would be more traditional, maybe in the
bluesy rock and roll.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Well, one of them's my dad.
Oh, the
California.
Really?
Yeah.
The Laurel Canyon-esque.
Yeah, that's.
thing?
I think pretty sure Nix wrote that. Don Nix wrote that song. When my dad died, I got every piece of tape I could find, like stuff at my grandmother's. They come from my grandmother's house. We just took apart his
dad's
room.
mom.
Yeah, yeah. So I had all these tapes because we were doing the reissue of Cold in the Morning with Omnivore. So they were paying for the studio time, so I just transferred everything. And there's all this stuff cut on National that, I don't know if it's Fry, but I mean, it sounds amazing. It sounds like it could have been recorded right now. I mean, it's just bulletproof,
You're saying it's Ardent stuff?
Yeah, Ardent on National. So, so that tune, California, it's crazy because like I'd never heard it before, and so but I had the multi-tracks to it, or as multi-tracks could be in 1966 or whatever this was. So there's this one part where like there was an acoustic guitar that kind of got out of time, and it didn't sound good. So I muted it, and then I played like a tom-tom and like put some plate reverb on it and put that in there as a place, just to instead of the out of time guitar or whatever.
From a 1966 recording of your father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I would love to like get the time machine and just go be like, I'm your son for the future. Whatever, 10 years after you die, I'm going to use a computer to record a tom-tom overdub on this song.
Well, let's play it.
Is this all unreleased stuff?
Yeah.
Let's play it right now, and then we'll come back and talk about it some more.
The sun shines bright, but not at night in California. That's the time that it plays on my mind in California. I'm doing nothing but growing old, and the nights they sure get cold. But this fortune I've been told in California. I came out west in search of the best of California. But loneliness for me is all that I see in California. But there's magic in this old town where everyone's dreams are found. But nobody wants to when you're down in California. So with my suitcase in my hand, I give my ticket to the man. I'm leaving this town. As the city sleeps, silently we creep. It's bringing me down. But you're there, you wait for me, and I hope that you can see what went wrong for me in California. In California. In California. In California.
So now it's not like or it used to be, if it still is, like a little 7-Eleven type
Mad
little,
Jack.
quick mart thing.
Yeah. Because I'm all the time driving around taking photographs. So I gotten super into film. I'll be over there from time to time.
Yeah, a friend of mine went in there and took all these pictures, and he took a picture of the bathroom. He's like, Isaac Hayes probably shitting that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I'm kind of low key fascinated with Art on National.
Are you talking about when it was over at the other, the Big Star location?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
across some Sweet and Cream and all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Terry Manning and Dickinson.
Yeah.
I've-
You go over there a lot and take pictures? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And I found years ago a box of slides, and a lot of it is over on. It's like color slides, obviously. It's like Dickinson and a little bit of Baker, but like in the room at Ardent. But I don't know. There's not a lot of documentation of it.
What do you mean you found them?
The slides were just in a drawer of some stuff. And I was like,
Where?
at my house or
Okay. When you say stuff, it's like it opens up a whole other, like, what are you talking about?
yeah. But yeah, just my dad taking photographs.
Your dad has things scattered around. Are you still finding them, or you've pretty much found everything at this point?
Every now and again, something will pop up.
Really?
You know, but more like somebody's like, "Hey, I have this and it's related to your dad."
Yeah.
Like I actually hung out a couple of years ago, like I guess 2023. I hung out with Nick's. I went out to where he lives in Germantown, and I was hoping to get some info about Portrait, but he didn't really remember a lot, or he wasn't giving it up. But
And Portrait is
my dad's first album on Isaac Hayes' Enterprise label. But he was fun to hang out with, and I think he appreciated the visit. But anyway, he had a show of his photographs because he took a bunch of amazing photographs. And actually, he told me that like my dad, he was hanging out with my dad when they lived in Germantown in like '67, and my dad gave him a camera and was like, he was like, this is the exposure triangle. Basically, you know, gave him the basic fundamentals, and Don just went away. And next thing you know, he's got all these pictures of Leon Russell and the Memphis Horns, and
Yeah, he became a big photographer. Put up books. And
I just saw this little, YouTube quickie thing, or maybe it was even like a TikTok on Klaus Vormann. And it shows George Harrison, Klaus Vormann, and Don Nix
with the hat and mustache.
But there's no mention of like who Don Nix is.
Right.
It's just about Klaus Vormann, and I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah.
There's
He's
Don.
in the concert for Bangladesh.
Well, they weren't fishing.
Yeah.
They were fishing all the time.
So anyway, he had a picture of my dad singing on National. And so he's like, you can have it. He gave it to me.
Like a physical photo?
A print like this big.
What?
Yeah.
He blew it up in a developing lab?
Well, it was a print made for the show that he had.
I ask you these things because, people just take for granted, physical media.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how did this happen? What connections did they have to a lab? Were they they knew how to run an f-stop, and like, were they making their own photographs? That's amazing. And like, you come over with a camera tonight.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I thought you were a guitar player. Now you're taking pictures. It's like, what's going on?
It's just another way to spend money,
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, just more gear to fill that bottom God-sized hole.
You take it on tour with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, wait a minute. So the whole steady book, does it have your photos in it? Okay.
But it has a lot of Tad's photos. He was working as a photographer for a while before the band got going.
You had a release of like this Once and Future Steve Selvidge thing that you're glacially, the thing is melting. Would it be like a multi-dimensional, like photographic show and like everything?
I've sort of, that's been bandied about a little bit. Like if I did do a drone record, there might be some kind of imagery to it, but I'm so not even anywhere close to that.
Okay, speaking of the drone, so of the 3 songs you sent me, which I barely had a chance to listen to,
Right.
but the drone thing caught me off balance because my daughter Hannah listens to Ethel Cain. You ever heard of Ethel Cain? So she put out a record last year called Perverts, and it's drone music with her murmuring, soft vocals, kind of thing. And it's interesting to me. I mean, Hannah was doing that kind of stuff 10 years ago at Java Cabana. But and then Hannah was telling me about other drone releases, and she listens to pretty much exclusively female vocalists who sing over somewhat drone. Ambient or drone. And I'm like, wait a second. So Steve just sent me this drone thing. Can you talk about that? Is it a genre all by itself?
I guess so. I mean, it just goes under different names. I mean, I've always been in like super minimal instrumental, I don't know what you would call it, but like
minimalism of sustained notes.
Yeah, and or certain just kind of vibes or feels or there's this German musician who did he had this thing called a Waldorf pole filter. It was like an effect, and it was broken, and so it wasn't doing what it was supposed to. So it was just making these noises like. He made. Wait,
it's German and it's not supposed to be doing what it's supposed to.
He made 3 records, but it's more kind of dub sounding. But
it's not a wah-wah pedal type thing.
No, that's me. So I don't know, and it's not quite the same. But I've always really been into Steve Reich and repetitive.
Whoa! Electronic music. 1967.
Well, like Six Marimbas, Sextet.
So I was just listening to a thing about the Zappa thing, talking about Beefheart, and when Beefheart recorded Trout Mask Replica, they were listening to Stephen Reich all the time.
Yeah.
That's amazing that you bring that up right now.
Yeah.
And I listened to a little of the Stephen Reich, the one with the op art cover with the 3 circles on it, 67 or 8. And it's they take someone who's talking about blues music and they break his voice down. And
It's going to rain, it's going to rain, it's going to rain.
Something like that.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I love it. I love it.
Okay.
I love that kind of stuff. My dad got me into that.
So, and you're
My
making
mom-
things out of it now.
Yeah. My mom called it itchy music. Why you got to put that itchy music on? But so I don't know, like it was something to do. It's meditative to make the music, especially when you're like laying down the beds. And then also Luther was working on a film score, and he was just reaching out to people to kind of get it done. And he was like, I need some drones. And so I would do stuff for him,
So you have done film soundtrack stuff.
A little bit. Yeah.
Before COVID, I asked you to do the Kid Anarchy score thing, which of course has never happened.
Right.
Keep our fingers crossed. I was going to ask you, have you done film work?
Yeah. I mean, Paul Taylor and I did music for one of my wife Joanne's films.
Yes, and I should have Joanne on just talking about her career and everything because
we did the Art Academy. We did the music for the Art Academy. And then there was a woman at Rhodes who was sort of in their film department, and she was doing some documentaries about different things, and I did a lot of work for her for that. It's kind of that's sort of dried up now, though. I don't know if it's like people are using more needle drop music or AI or whatever. But like I used to do a lot of commercial work too.
Yeah.
But
have you worked with Bomar on things?
Nah.
No. Yeah. Well, I just wondered that because there's a market out there, I guess. But how do you perceive AI coming in and interrupting things?
Oh well, I mean, more so with commercial music, like commercial work, because so often you get hired like, look, we need something that sounds like the Black Keys, but we're not going to pay them the money that they charge. So make something that sounds like the Black Keys, Well, now you can just give AI a prompt and it comes up with music.
What's you have a fear of that, uprooting things, or what?
Well, since I don't get to work anymore anyway, it makes no difference to me. But like but it's as I understand it, like instead of hiring, either a person who makes music for that kind of stuff, or there's also just like, production houses that have like hours and hours and hours of music that you just But now, like as I understand it, you'll be able to just to be like, I need, whatever, Rod Stewart singing.
Well, that's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Frank, did you have a take on the drone genre, or can we even call it that? Or you haven't heard Steve's take on it?
I haven't, but I wasn't. Y'all drone music and everything new, and you're talking about your kids. What are your kids into? What do they listen to, or do you influence them? Do they play music, or are they just into anything, or do they not even care at all?
So Franny is super into Billie Eilish. And we went and saw Billie Eilish in Nashville. So good. It was so good. I love Billie Eilish.
With her brother?
No, Phineas wasn't there. He was doing his own thing.
Yeah.
I was a little bummed about that, but whatever. I left wanting nothing from that concert. Stevie's a little different. He's super into like music from oh God, what are the? It's like cartoon action, Power Rangers. Super into Power Ranger stuff.
Yeah.
But really, he's more into Vlad the Impaler these days.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but
I mean
Nosferatu.
yeah. Vlad 3. I mean, like he knows all about it.
Yeah. How old is he?
10. He'll be 11. In a couple months.
So are they into manga and anime and stuff?
I don't think so. I don't know what. I think Frank's been watching Big Mouth.
Oh my God, I don't even know what that is.
I don't either. I mean, I know that they were way into Bluey.
Well, so I was forced into an anime manga black hole of sorts, which led to a lot of great things. Korean animation was like,
Right.
which your kids force you into new pop culture.
Not anymore because they're just both on their screens. I don't know about you, but they're door shut, screens on, and you're out.
Oh yeah.
How old's your daughter now?
14, same age as his daughter.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And we got her. I got her record player years ago. I get her records, and they sit
Yeah.
there and collect dust.
Yep. And then once the earbuds go in, it's like you don't
Yeah.
know what's going on. But I know that. I mean, like 2020 pandemic. Like this is before Franny had a device with earbuds, and it was like just being played on Alexa in the kitchen, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be a dad. That's cool, man. She wants to listen to Billie Eilish, and then I was like, damn, this shit's good, man. It's really good. She's super into MF Doom.
Oh my God, that's what John's into.
Yeah, it's like I guess it's sort of old school hip hop.
Yeah.
John's totally into MF Doom.
Yeah. She was rocking along last night to a Nirvana song, so
I want to play this drone song that you
Okay.
sent me. What's the title?
I think it's just D drone
Why did you call it that?
because it's in D.
I didn't know if there was
drone
some
and D.
Yeah.
mathematical.
No, it just. I mean, dude, like I don't even know if this is done. I've been. This is like literally like what I've been working on the past 2 days.
But that's cool that you would let us play something
Yeah,
so experimental.
yeah. Well, and like I said, I'm not really worried about like my drone record leaking and. had my own space with, all my stuff. Like, again, that Memoz record, we recorded, I recorded all my stuff for that in my studio. The last Bash and Pop record, I did a lot of my guitars and backup vocals in my studio as well,
Let's talk about Bash and Pop real quick.
Okay.
Yeah. How did you meet Tommy?
Through Luther. Luther had been playing some with Tommy, but then like he couldn't do a gig or something. He was like, he had a conflict. And like he was having a hard time finding, like you said, how do I infiltrate these, situations. He was having a hard time kind of finding his place in that anyway, but he just had a conflict also. So he was like, you should call my friend Steve. He can do this gig. So Tommy called me, and
Luther played on Tim.
Right.
So
Pleased to Meet Me.
I'm sorry, Pleased to Meet Me. So that was the connection with Tommy and Luther, or
yeah, but I mean, because Jim worked on another record with Tommy's band, Perfect.
Okay.
Was it Perfect?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I mean, and just they kept in touch. So Luther always knew Tommy. Mm-hmm. I was at some of those sessions for Pleased to Meet Me. I remember Tommy doing the upright bass for Nightclub Jitters, and Dickinson was yelling at him, "Don't aim for the tape."
Well, I've never heard that you were there.
Well, it was kept secret.
No, that's great to hear this. So tell me more.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was like, "Yeah, I can do it. Send me the stuff. I'll learn it." So I went to Brooklyn to rehearse. They got real cracked up because I'd followed this tattoo artist online that I really liked the stuff that he did. And it just so happened that he was going to be working out of a shop in Brooklyn when I was there. Mm-hmm. So before the rehearsal, I just went and got a tattoo. And so then I showed up with the clear plastic. And so that's where I got the nickname Sleeve Selvidge. But
I remember Tommy when at the show he kept saying Sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Well, now, how many Bash and Pop shows have there been in Memphis?
One. Yeah.
Well, you mean at the High Tone?
Yeah.
Before they moved to Third Tone.
Yeah, the version 2.
Version 2. We were there, and I remember Tommy going, "What are we doing?" And like, you seemed like the band leader. You're like, "Nope, we're doing this."
Yeah.
And it's like, I was like, "Wow, that's an interesting dynamic."
I mean, look, like I didn't know what I was walking into, and but then like more shows started getting booked, and we coalesced. Like we had a couple different people come in and out, but then we got Joe Kidd on drums and Justin Perkins on bass. But like when it gelled, it was a motherfucker. And then and Tommy and I, like it took about a day, and we were just like off to the races together. I mean,
yeah.
I was going to say some more stuff about Dickinson. I don't know what Tommy has told you, but I've always heard that Dickinson was a huge influence on Tommy. Why he kept in touch? Because Dickinson was the one who pushed him into writing his own songs.
Yeah, Dickinson saw what was going on
started
with Tommy.
doing all that. And there's a quote from Dickinson's about Keith Richards and Tommy Stinson's like, I've worked with both, and Tommy Stinson's rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. He had mad love for Tommy.
Yeah.
I just think back to you sitting on my couch arm playing the bass at 13, and Tommy playing the bass at 13 in the Replacements in his Minnesota situation.
Yeah, totally.
And then you're talking about Hold Steady also being that cold North Midwest thing. It's like, did the Hold Steady have connections to Bash and Pop or the Midwestern? Is that I thought that's what maybe brought you through to Bash and Pop was
it was Luther.
Totally different.
But Finn is a huge fan of Replacements because he's in the documentary.
Yeah, I mean, our singer, his favorite band is the Replacements. I mean, he was a disciple of that band.
I think the Replacements to me is my defining generational moment of beyond Black Flag or Husker Du or whatever the Replacements were it. And then when they came to Memphis to record Pleased to Meet Me, that was to me, okay, wow, that's almost full circle, And then George and I and a van full of punkers drove around trying to meet Westerberg or anyone, and then we met Westerberg in the doorway of the Antenna during that period, through a friend of Ron Hale's, like a girlfriend or something, who said, "Oh, I'll bring Paul out here." We didn't have the money nor the desire to go in. We wanted to be too cool,
right?
So we didn't want to go in and the Antenna and meet Paul at the time, and we're talking, what would this be?
87.
87?
Yeah.
And Paul came out, and he said, you guys come in and have a beer. And we're like, we don't have any money. And he turned his pockets inside out.
Right.
And said, yeah, I don't have any either. And so then like a year later, I'm reading in Spin magazine, Spin's interviewing Westerberg about the Warner Brothers contract and like what it means to the Replacements. And in the article, he turns his pockets inside out. And I'm like, wait, I was there when that happened originally.
Yeah. I'm sure it happened a lot.
But it's great that you connected with.
I mean, Tommy, I got super tight. I love him to death, man. He's got such a big heart, and we just, it was just, I don't know, because they meant to be or whatever. But we just, it's like we'd known each other the whole time.
And he's cool with the adulation. Like people come up to him and they want to let him go, and they want to talk to him and talk about things that happened 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't get like all grumpy about it or anything.
Has he heard the Antenna Replacements recording, the bootleg recording?
Oh, I don't know.
All that stuff. Does he go into those rabbit holes?
No,
I don't think so at all.
No.
They just released like the Chicago show or something.
Did they?
Somebody's like, "What do you remember that show?" Tommy's like, "I don't even remember that show happening."
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
We saw them in New Orleans on the Tim tour, and then of course at the Antenna. That was the most raucous, loud. Fuck the Who.
Right.
That was the loudest show
That's
I've ever.
when Bob was still with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we went. There was a bar next door.
What was the venue?
Oh my God. Dash Rip Rock opened for them.
Of course.
Of course.
Was it Tipitina's?
No. No. But we went next door, and Bob was there, and he's like, "Have a drink." Every time I've hung out with a Replacement, they begged me to have a drink with them, and I've refused every time.
Yeah.
And Bob was like, "Come on, man, relax." And George, of course, is straight edge.
Right.
He's like, "No, man, we're just here." I don't even know what it was. And then Tommy was out front petting a stray dog. Those are my memories. But somebody threw a whiskey bottle, and you've been at these punk rock shows where you're squeezed in like sardines, and whatever the crowd does is what you do.
Yeah.
And that's exciting and fearful, and it's everything that, you didn't get drafted, you didn't go to Vietnam, but now your life could potentially be in danger. Yeah. And someone throws a whiskey bottle at the New Orleans show, and it shatters right in front of me. And so for some reason, I become like super mindful, and I go down on and pick up all the pieces of the whiskey bottle off the floor, because I think I'm going to be cut on this if I don't pick it up. So there was some self-preservation there.
Sure.
The whole time I'm doing this, picking this shit up, throwing it in the garbage, and the Replacements are wailing like Bastards of Young and all that. And that's just, those things stay with you.
I never saw them. I only saw them when the Hold Steady opened up a couple of shows on that reunion tour.
Yeah. Are they talking about getting back together after COVID and everything? No.
Nah, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, Tommy told me that he talked to Paul recently, but yeah, I don't know.
So what's your slate with Hold Steady, Bash and Pop, anything coming up?
Hold Steady's, we got shows booked. I mean, we're playing in London in March like we always do.
So you're about to get busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're going to start to work on a new record here soon. And then, Tommy's just been doing everything solo we hadn't played like as Bash and Pop proper since 2017, I think.
Wow.
But when Tommy was in town playing that show,
Tsunami?
No, that was the first one. This was at Barquillo.
Oh, right.
I went and sat in with them, and then he came over the next day, and we put down some just real skeletal framework ideas of some new songs.
Wow.
So, and we are playing some gigs in May. Bash and Pop is. We're doing the Little Stevens cruise or whatever, the garage rock cruise. I don't know what it is, but
okay. Well, did you want to play any Bash and Pop?
Sure.
Okay. What would you play?
Anything could happen.
principles that you use to be who you are and your skill set are baffling and unknown to me.
Okay.
Because you exist on a level of skill and I mean I've written some songs and I played in a band with you, which I'm really proud of, but what you do is beyond. I'm just really proud of you. You're amazing.
Well, thanks.
And I don't think you get the credit. Does anyone in Memphis get the credit for what they do? And when I hear you play guitar, I feel like you're in touch with something that's abstract.
Yeah, well, you're just chasing the dragon, you know.
It's like David Lynch died today.
I know.
And so he had a quote that was on NPR about when he falls in love with an idea and he embraces it. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, but he knows how to attain it. Yeah. In physical form. And with music, it's not physical. It's it's still two dimensions, right? I mean, yeah. So, but you have the skill to adapt to any principle and then still be your own person and your own artist.
That's the goal. Try to, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you pull that off pretty well.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of, I just go by intuition.
So if you wanted to play a whole Steady song.
Well, let's absolutely play one that I wrote, you know.
Bam.
Carlos is crying.
Why is Carlos crying?
Oh, you'll have to ask Finn that.
Okay.
But, because he got older and he had to get a job.
The singer kinda slaughtered I Wanna Be Your Lover, and someone went to fetch a few more pitchers. It wasn't all that crowded cause the softball games had washed out in the rain. I'd slipped out of my shift on some sort of screw up with the schedule. There's a couple newer places by the river, but Skipper's is mainly where we hang. Carlos had been distant since his sister went to Denver with that dickhead. The dude claimed he was a carpenter, but no one ever saw him pound a nail. And Carlos knew his sister was old enough to make her own decisions, but he hopes she isn't home when they finally come to take that jerk to jail. Now Carlos starts crying and we're all kind of frightened, and every single person at the table stops talking, and he's sobbing and shaking, and yeah, we've been drinking, but it's different for boys. He said, how did this happen? It feels like we're drifting. Are you sure we're even asking all the pertinent questions? Turn on the burner and the butter will blacken. Don't act like this was even our choice. Mickey got up to get some money to put into the jukebox. The waitress brought some water, then quickly scurried off back towards the bar. Carlos didn't even seem to care who was taking in the breakdown. I asked him if he wanted me to offer to walk him to his car. He said, how did we get here? We started as skaters, then you got your license, and then graduation, then I changed medications, and everything after went sideways, including tonight. You had a Screamer with trackers and OJs, and I had a Stedham with bones and a dome tail, and a failure's a trick that we learned pretty quick. It just took a few times to get right. Man, we used to glide. We used to hang like the smoke. We'd show off for my sister. We didn't mind being broke. Now every conversation I have's about money, and I leave home in the morning, but then I just keep driving. I kill off the day until you guys stop working. Then pictures and Skippers. Now Carlos Carlos is crying. Carlos is crying because he didn't tell his girlfriend that he stopped showing up at his job in the morning. And it's been a few weeks, and he knows it's not sweet. And he's sobbing and shaking, and all I can say is, I love you, I feel you, I know that you're hurting. You're scared for your sister, you haven't been working. I love you, I feel you, I'm sorry you're hurting. But turn off the burner, the butter is burning.
This is all going to be edited, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And as I said, Frank will be cut out completely.
I hope so.
What?
I hope so.
Frank, come on. So this is the Black and Wyatt Records podcast.
Yep.
And the very first record that Black and Wyatt Records put out was Fingers Like Saturn.
That's right.
And I got a crazy midlife crisis idea to put out a rock and roll record. I said, what if Bowie grew up on a gravel road and it would be Fingers Like Saturn? And I had gone out to coffee with your wife, and she had told me, Joanne had told me, well, you know, and this is probably a slip of the tongue, Steve would like to play drums on something. He's always playing guitar and he wants to play drums. And I'm like, whoa, what did you say? Because this was 2006.
Yeah, I think I just bought a kit, or maybe you gotten a different drum kit.
Yeah. I just been very lucky, and maybe it's because I'm old and I've lived here long enough and people trust me, and I've made movies that have soundtracks, and I've worked with local musicians, which have the greatest fucking music on earth. The music's better than the movies. Let's be honest. And Joanne actually came to me like many, many years ago and said, hey, I want to surprise Steve for Christmas this year. Can you sell me all your movies? Remember that?
I totally remember that.
And so that was the VHS days.
Yeah.
And
I can remember sitting in my front room in University Circle.
My God. So or sold for whatever. I provided the VHS copies of everything that I had at the time. And I'm like, wow, no one's ever asked me that before. Like a box set of a box that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So anyway, and you and I have always been tied together. So when she said that, and I reached out to you, I was so surprised and so pleased that you said, yeah, I'll play drums in this. And of course, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, what if I can't even perform the songs I've written? And then, of course, you played on Black Ray of Sunshine for the Fingers Like Saturn release. And then we...
Did I play the acoustic?
You did.
Okay.
On your Gibson acoustic.
That's right.
And
it was a 1959 J45.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
That I've since sold.
And George came over. I think this was at your house on University.
Circle, yeah.
Yeah. And George played. You were there. Jonathan Kirksey played bass and cello. Corey Dials sang lead. And that's sort of like a female Danzig thing or whatever. I don't know that I was after. Susie Hendricks played saxophone. It was a big band.
Yeah.
And we put out a record, and I'm so proud of it. And any thoughts on Fingers Like Saturn? Or
I had not just, but like I was really kind of getting more into, recording in my studio and figuring out,
your back house.
Yeah. And figuring out like, digital recording and like not just dicking around with me and a guitar on its own, but like putting together, recording something, like recording the drums, figuring out how to do all that. And it was like actually going to be an album. I remember like, cause when we were mixing it, I was like, wow, this is like stuff that I recorded being mixed, but yeah, it was fun.
I didn't want it to be a lo-fi thing.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be a well-produced sort of testament to whatever we were together as a band doing in 2006-07. But it took a few years for it to come out on vinyl.
Yeah. My hair was a lot darker when we made it, and then when it came out.
But Winston took photos of us, which are amazing. I mean, his father's legacy is obviously there, but it's got nothing on Winston. Winston is a great photographer.
Yeah.
I just want to say that.
I wish he'd do it more.
Does he not do it so much?
He was going hard and heavy. He's like, because like now that I'm such a nerd about it, he's like, where were you like however many years, like 10, 15 years ago?
Well, he told me that the photo he took of Corey on the front cover was one of the greatest or favorite pictures that he had ever made.
Nice.
And I don't even know if I've ever gotten him a copy of the record. So,
well, you ought to.
well, I ran into him at the Tim Prudhomme's fake show at Murphy's
Yeah.
a while back, and I said, "Hey, do you want to come on the podcast?" And he's like, "What would I talk about?"
He's very demure.
And Gordon was there with him, and I'm like, "Well, maybe I'll have you both on, or whatever." But that would be a cool thing. Maybe you could come on with him. Whatever, open to any ideas.
Sure.
I just got to circle back around and get with him. However, I get with him. I'm not. You may have to lead me back to him.
Okay.
Anyway, all that said, you being a part of it, all these people that drank the Kool-Aid and did these songs, I'm really proud of it. And if we were going to play a Fingers Like Saturn song, anything come to mind? Or
How about Glam Lies?
Glam Lies? Okay. I always felt like in a fantasy world we could have performed that on Saturday Night Live.
That would be great. I've never played Saturday Night Live.
There's still well, you've done some other things, right? Conan O'Brien?
Yeah.
With Amy? Hey, we even talked about Amy LaVere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done Fallon and I haven't done SNL. But
Hollywood's on fire, by the way.
I
don't know if you knew
know.
that.
I know.
All right, let's play Glam Lies.
It's a bad time.
Should say here that we begin the beginning of every podcast at Black and Wyatt with Fingers Like Saturn, Heaven, which Steve comes in on the drums, which is the way the album opens. And so it's really cool to have Steve here and as part of the whole thing. All right, Steve, before we let you out of here. Hey, God, Lord. Frank, just feel free to interrupt. Do you have any thoughts on Amy LaVere? Keep it clean, will you?
I'm not sure which EP you're talking about.
How much shit did you record with Amy?
Just one EP called Died of Love. It was sort of like a snapshot of where we were as a trio, touring trio, me, her, and Paul Taylor.
But it seemed like you played with her forever.
It was like 2 or 3 years.
$5 cover era, all that.
Yeah. I mean, we packed like 10 years into the years we played together. We worked a lot.
And you played on Conan?
Yep.
At that time?
And also, I kind of wish it was online. They took it off, but we did later with Jules Holland, and we crushed it, man. It was so much fun. But yeah, man, we went all over the place. Amy works hard, man.
Yeah.
I'm super. I loved it. We were a great trio. I learned a lot. I was actually just sort of reminiscing about it last night to some friends, but yeah, we did a lot of cool stuff.
Well, like what were the nuances of Amy as opposed to what you're doing?
I mean, first of all, it's just the three of us, and the upright bass is kind of like, it's not like a Fender Precision bass, it's like it kind of blooms, and so I was the only person making kind of like harmonic content, like I had all the space, and it was a matter of where to keep it space and not play, and just I had nowhere to hide. I didn't have a big rock band to hide behind, So and we got some pretty sweet opening gigs. So we'd be like in front of some people, and it was like I'm just laid bare out there, But I don't know. We gelled. Obviously her and Paul have been playing together for a while by the time I started playing with them. But we just road dogged it, and we just did a lot of fun stuff. And even if it wasn't musically related, we just, we'd be out in Joshua Tree or some tiny town in England. Like that.
And you were a total Memphis unit.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So what did you learn from the Amy experience that then benefited you? Well, were you also with Hold Steady? How did that timeline work out?
I went, like, she was starting to work on the next record, and things were kind of beginning to split with her and Paul. And so it was a little tense. And then I got the call for the Hold Steady, and I was like, I'm going to do this. Okay.
And then we squeezed into a Pointless Drinking video.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
We did that.
Dan Ball was there.
Yeah.
He was taking photos.
Yeah, over at Joe's Liquor.
It was so cold.
Pointless drinking. Where does it end? Where to begin? Who are your friends? Who are your foes? You'll never know long as you go. Pointless drinking till it sounds like they're all speaking poorly in Spanish. Who do you wish would totally vanish? It's only you and all you can do. I'm not an actor, but I act like I am. I really am awful, but I act like I'm not. Pretending my days hold the value of gold, when they only hold one thing, and it's all that I've got. Pointless drinking, keeping my healthy dose of resentment, keeping me waking with an empty repentance, keeping me broke as a joke. Pointless drinking took all the days that I should have felt young, took all the joy from the songs I've sung. Took me a while. Oh, I'm not a hater, also, but I look at myself and I don't really know. Can I dig myself out of the wreck of my past? Will I ever unharden and stop showing my ass? Will those eternal bartenders ever stop filling this half-empty glass? Pointless drinking. Hate the effect, even more hate the cause. Hate to admit that I'm tragically flawed. I would keep going, but let's pause for the cause. Pointless drinking. Why do you do it? You always go through it. Drink to forget all the times that you blew it. Think everyone knows, think everyone cares. Pointless drinking. Keeping you drunk on your dreams of great heights. From the bottom to the top and back down overnight. You know it's not right, you know it's not right. Pointless drinking. It's just the one thing you're overachieving. Feels like you never will stop believing that you'll never win, you'll never win. Maybe one day you will.
Beginning of 2010.
Okay.
But it, it was all cool.
You know, we've been trying to get Amy on as well, but she and Will are so busy.
Yeah.
But we'll get her on. Steve, have we covered everything?
I mean, run-ins with the law, music.
Rod called.
Yeah, Rod. Yeah, my nemesis.
Should we wrap it up before Rod calls back?
Yeah.
I'm afraid he's going to call back. I'll see him tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, I know. He wants me to take him out for beers on his birthday.
When's his birthday?
The 22nd, I think.
Of
this month.
No kidding.
Yeah, and his social security number is, and his mother's maiden name is.
Well, no, wait a minute. That's Hannah. My daughter Hannah's birthday is the 22nd of January.
Or maybe she can take him out for beers.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and then come back again, and we'll do it all over again, and we'll make up a bunch of lies.
I'm down with that.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, thanks, y'all.